Hey guys, while I'm waiting for another coat of shellac to dry on that Hallicrafters cabinet, I figured I'd take a closer look at the Eico 369 I picked up a few weeks ago. I've cleaned up the cabinet. It's in really good shape. Hardly a ding or a scratch in any of the paint work. All the lettering is really crisp. Knobs are all in great shape. Everything turns freely. So now it's time to take a look inside. I think all I have to do is remove two screws on the back. So I'll grab a flat bladed screwdriver and see if I can get this open. Okay, that cover came off pretty easily, just the two screws like I hoped. Now the first thing that strikes me is how much cleaner and nicer looking this is inside than the usual old grungy radio or TV I work on. This is typical of most test equipment I've opened up. I think the cases were sealed pretty well, and these were made to be quite reliable, and to be fair, they probably weren't run as many hours as a TV or radio would be, so a tech would need to open them up to replace tubes. In fact, you can see there's still original Eico tubes in here. So this may have never been opened up since it was made. Also did a nice job of copper plating the chassis so no oxidized cadmium or rust to clean off. Power transformer, rectifier and filter, and then these must be the oscillator tubes and whatnot. Likely I divided two sections here. This would be the marker oscillator, and this is the sweep oscillator. From what I've seen of the schematic, this crazy looking device in here with these hunks of ferrite and iron cores and this coil around here, that's what actually produces the RF sweep. I believe it runs off of the 60 Hertz signal and interacts with the oscillator in such a manner that it sweeps between two frequency limits. Now, the one thing I noticed right away is that this tube is bad. See how these tubes have this nice black shiny surface on top? That's called a getter. They put that on there to react with any last few molecules of air that may be inside the tube when they seal off the vacuum. Well, when they go white like this, that means the vacuum has been breached. Sometimes they call this going to air. So if that tube is bad, I'll have to replace it. I'll check my stash and hopefully I've got one on hand. Let's see about underneath. Nice neat wiring, nice and clean. One thing of concern, unfortunately, is this guy. We call it couplate or a hybrid module. There's probably several components encased in this ceramic element. You're not going to find a modern replacement for that, and unless they show on the schematic what the discrete values are inside of that, or you can find out online what's inside of there, very difficult to deal with. Luckily though, Eico is a very well-known company, so I'm sure if this is bad I'll be able to find some help online. A couple capacitors, one paper guy here, I think that's an electrolytic down here, and then a electrolytic up here, and then there's a can up here. Oh, and a couple more over here. But, not too bad. Another common feature on test equipment is this, which is where the AC comes in. Elaborate filtering, because they want as clean as power as possible. The last thing you want in an RF generator is to have any RF leaking in through the power cord and interacting with this sensitive piece of equipment. Two more tubes under here I just noticed for the oscillators. They have those nicely buried and shielded within the copper there. And that's about it. Let me see if I have one of these tubes, and I think I'll try powering this up slowly. Generally this stuff, they use much higher quality components, and this isn't as old as the TVs and radios I usually work on. So I bet the chances are pretty good that this will actually work, and these capacitors haven't gone bad yet. I found a good replacement 6DR7, popped it in. I also checked all the other tubes and they check out okay. So I went ahead and powered this up and fed the RF output to my scope, and here we go. Seems to be working pretty well. On this range, that is, and the frequency does respond to the dial, so that's good. However, when I drop to lower frequency ranges, the sine wave starts getting more and more distorted, and it gets worse as the lower I go. So I powered it down and started checking the other components, and indeed a number of resistors have drifted off their correct value. For instance, this 4.7 mega ohm resistor is measuring like 11 mega ohms, so that's got to go. I also ordered up some replacement capacitors, because I would be surprised if these are a little bit leaky. But otherwise, yeah, I'm really happy that this is working. Like, for instance, if I just turned up, I had the sweep turned off, I just turned it back on, and you can see as I vary the sweep, well, it's a little hard to interpret if you haven't seen this before, but what this means is as I rotate this and increase it, the waveform is looking funky because it's actually being FM modulated, so that's working right. And the attenuator works and such. So I should get my new parts in a couple days, pop those in, and hopefully the performance will improve.